Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You have been a wonderful audience. Please, a big round of applause for yourselves as well. You have made this evening great for us. With the lack of time, I'll have to move on quickly. Here we have a very nice panel. All the initials, if you can see, it's VVN. This is a very, very noble panel for you. So if you're starting a business, this is the panel you have to look at. So let me begin with our senior most, our chairman of board of advisors as well, and our mentor, my mentor, personal mentor, Vipul bhai. You are a third generation now. I mean, this family of yours is now third generation UAE. So I understand the panel is on commerce, but please give us some color on, through your eyes, paint a picture of what UAE has been, how you came in or how your father came in, and how have you seen this country evolve, and also give a business landscape. We just had our last speaker just before, Mr. Anand Kumar, Yogesh Bhai Mehta. You also have seen his journey. There are a lot of people like him who have thrived on this wonderful land. So just paint a small picture for all of us of what this landscape is.
Jai Jinendra. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Shreyans, and thank you, Jito, for inviting. UAE, I have seen transform actually. Many of us who have been here for a very long period of time know how it has evolved, how it has transformed. It's not just the buildings and the architecture and the infrastructure that we see, but beyond that, if you see the business, the economy, and the growth which has happened, which is marvelous in a country which has just completed 50 years of its existence. It's a very young country. And today, if I just give a brief highlight of what UAE was at the time when UAE was formed around that time and what it is today. In the year 1975, the GDP of UAE was $15 billion. Today, it is $500 billion plus. The per capita today stands at 50,000 US dollars. The foreign trade of UAE, non-oil foreign trade, has crossed $1 trillion. And these are just testaments to how UAE has progressed and evolved over a period of time. And what many of you may not know, it is indeed an oil economy, but less than 1/3 of UAE's GDP is contributed by oil. So the remaining 2/3 is the non-oil economy, which is driving the growth here. And that's why, as I call it, we call Japan as land of rising sun. This is the land of opportunity, from where you can connect not just to the Middle East or the Africa, as the theme of this particular event is. Definitely that's a very close connect, but you can connect to the entire universe from here, I mean, entire globe from here. And it's, less than 6 hours of flying distance. The 2/3 of the globe is, and look at the infrastructure which is there. So this is what the opportunity that this particular country and land has really evolved into.
ऐसे ही नहीं. So you mentioned two countries. ऐसे ही नहीं. Modi ji best friends थे Shinzo Abe से in Japan and with MBS. ऐसे ही नहीं है ये. It's because of what this land offers. You mentioned infrastructure, and I have to go to my other panelist, Mr. Vipin. So Vipin, in your last stint, you were the Warren Buffett investee company. You were a part of that Fortune 500 company, and you were the sales director at that company, and used to manage Middle East and Africa region. But I believe that company was headquartered here because of the words he mentioned: infrastructure, connectivity, and a lot of other reasons. Can you please elaborate and paint a color for all of our audience who are not from here? कि infrastructure सिर्फ building नहीं होता है, क्या होता है आप सच्ची में समझाइए.
Thanks, Shreyans. Thanks, Jito. So, talking about infrastructure, Shreyans, Dubai ports, I'll start with right now from an infrastructure point of view. Dubai ports connects directly globally with nearly 150 ports, and overall connectivity is to 300 ports. Dubai air cargo connects directly with almost 300 cities. Dubai port itself has offices across 70 global cities. That's the port connectivity, so it's very easy to make a अपना warehouse यहाँ बनाइए and start doing the global trade from here. So that's the reason MNCs are started making head office here, because the infrastructure development which is happening here is very, very fast. Post-COVID, we all experienced, probably a lot of our friends in Dubai, they experienced. Dubai unfolded themselves more than 5 times within last 3 years. Their connectivity reached to global like anywhere else. And then making your Dubai hub from that infrastructure point of view is very, very easy. You're getting visas for another countries, very easy. Getting flights to another countries, very easy. There are a lot of flights are here which are connecting almost 176 countries from here. Small, large, or globally. Thank you.
That's good to hear. And in fact, if I would add on to him, to move internally within Africa, if you are within one of the countries, it's very difficult to find a connecting flight from Kenya to probably Tanzania. But from Dubai, the headquartered businesses can actually move faster than they would move internally in Africa. So that's the kind of connectivity this country actually has to offer. And introducing let me put up a question for one of my panelists, Nirav bhai. I've had to come last to you. But the reason that is because Mr. Arun Jain, who was a speaker, he told me finance capital comes last, and in that tax is the least liked out of it also. So I had to give you a little later on that. So I wanted to ask you if you could paint the changing landscape. So UAE was a tax-free zone. Compliances were heard to be, not factually, but heard to be a little lax. But what is it now? And if you could paint a landscape again, just to give a brief for our audience so that we can begin our real questionings.
So Jai Jinendra everyone, and thank you Shreyans for the question. When I came in UAE in 2006, okay, there was no AML, there was no VAT, there was no corporate tax. The UAE was used at that time again for connectivity and for leveraging the trade efficiency that it can bring from here. A lot of multinationals at that time used UAE because it was a zero tax country. Now, in last 7 years, if we start from VAT time, is when the entire scenario has changed. It has changed because of UAE's aspiration to change. UAE is now aspiring to compete to become one of the finest financial center in the world. If you want to be a financial center in the world and if you want to compete with likes of Singapore and London, and which it is doing right now, then you have to also bring in the regulation that it brings. And in that process, they introduced VAT, of course, at only 5%, which is the lowest in the world. Now they are introducing corporate tax, again at a 9% rate, which is one of the lowest in the world. The idea of having compliances here from a UAE point of view is to be recognized as a compliant economy, rather than driving for having tax revenue as part of the GDP. So it's very different objective. For a lot of other countries and government, you need tax revenue to run the government. Here government is already having surplus. So they don't need tax money to run the government. But they are collecting tax money to bring in proper discipline, compliances, and increase or enhance their reputation of being one of the leading jurisdiction to do business with. And that's what has changed in last 6 to 7 years.
Hold on. Now, this is where I'm becoming very impromptu. Mr. Arun Jain has inspired me. So I'm going to decaf. मेरे पास डाउट है, आप लोग इतना सब अच्छा बातें की है, मेरे को डाउट हो रहा है, मैं आपके साथ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट करूंगा, कुछ लोगों एंगर भी आएगा, और एफ और ई तो मैं छोड़ ही देता हूँ, है ना? So lowest tax rate in the world, you had zero tax, then you go to lowest tax rates in the world, that's what you're telling me, right? At 5%, corporate tax at 9%. Yet, sometimes, in this first year, their expectation was of collecting 18 billion dirhams, they've collected more than that, right? What's the catch, Nirav bhai? Please, let's be honest.
Look,
There's some catch, right?
With any tax laws, there are always catches, right? You don't get benefit everywhere. There will always be some areas where you don't get. So now VAT revenue annually is touching 30 billion, right?
Exactly. That's
At
not their expectation.
9% of the corporate tax, their estimate is similar. So they are going to collect either same or more revenue out of corporate tax. So it's not about, it's a significant number. I'm not even saying no to that. However, if you compare this kind of tax regime with other international tax regime, these are very, very simple to comply. When you go to India and you want to file a tax return, how many of you can do it on your own? Or if you want to file a GST return, how many of you can do it on your own? If you're salaried and you don't have any other income except salary, yes. But not otherwise. You need a CA to do that. Here, even for a most complicated or highest turnover company of maybe Chandubai's companies in billions every year, right? For their VAT return, their internal staff is trained and is filing it on their own. They don't need external help. That's the kind of simplicity in compliance which exists. In 5 years, how many people got audited on VAT? Maybe 1,000 out of a total taxpayer of 600 or 700,000. So, idea is, okay, we have very high penalties to keep it as a deterrent that if you don't comply, you will be fined heavily. The legal recourse or dispute mechanism is very costly. If you go to India, it's very easy to file an appeal and keep waiting for a few years and you don't incur any cost. Here, that's not the case. You want to file an appeal, you will have to incur cost. And if you want to wait also, you will have to incur cost. So it's very costly options of litigation or non-compliance. That's why there's a deterrent for everybody to comply. That's the catch.
That's the catch. So सीधा चलोगे तो सब चंगा है, टेढ़े बने तो यहाँ पे तोड़ देते हैं. That's it, right?
Shreyans, sorry, can I just add a different dimension or a perspective to this particular thing?
Please, please.
The objective, again, as Neeraj said, of the government is not to collect tax. That's the byproduct of it. The objective is to make UAE as an acceptable, reputable jurisdiction of international standard to do business. Something of the likes of probably Singapore or Hong Kong or Europe, or, where large businesses who wants to come globally, multinationals, always they would first look at a jurisdiction and say, are they compliant with the international rules and regulations, the policies and procedures, the taxes, anti-money laundering and all that. And if a country does not satisfy those criteria, those multinationals will not invest in large amount in those countries. And that impacts the country. The objective of UAE government and the leadership is make UAE as one of the best destinations for people or the companies to invest. For that, these regulations are essential so that it is now at par with the international jurisdictions. And now, with UAE being out of the FATF grey list, which was prohibiting large corporations and multinationals to bring in large investment, with that having gone, you can see in next few years, large amount of money coming in and big businesses being set up. And so this is a place where companies which have aspirations to grow global, to expand their presence globally, they can set up their international base operation here and then expand to other countries from here. This is the benefit that companies and
after
country
these
would derive.
taxes have come in fact, more and more Fortune 500 companies are willing to move their headquarters to this destination. And I believe Vipin also has to add something to this.
Yeah, same. So whatever is the Neeraj Bhai or Vipul Bhai mentioned, the tax collection or VAT collection is obviously a byproduct. But if you will notice, the collections is heavily invested into the country itself to make the country itself as a number one trading hub or a country in the world. So if you will notice how this all infrastructure is being developed, there are 176 nationalities within UAE. There are safety and security is at very best level where a single lady can roam around on the roads even entire night alone. So that's the adaptability, that's the diversity where the government is heavily investing. They are keep changing the laws because of the diversity and all those things. That is the reason more and more MNCs are also following up here. Because MNC also follows the same tradition since many years, that the diversity is required within the organization. Inclusivity is required within the organizations. Thank you.
So this is the paint of the picture for you for why companies are being set up in UAE and what's the advantages. But Vipul bhai, I have to ask you another question. Since you're an auditor and a reputable firm for many, many years, you must have seen many businesses. So can you paint a landscape of what businesses, when they come, what are the challenges that they face, what they came with the expectations, how they have survived or thrived, and what went wrong for some of them? Of course, something goes wrong for some of them, some expectations are wrong. So can you distinguish between for our guests so that they can understand how they should be approaching this?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, there are many opportunities in almost all sectors of the economy. However, there are pitfalls and things to guard against what you mentioned. One of the most important part which people sometimes fail to actually address is because people are sometimes playing only on the tax arbitrage or the differential between different countries. No doubt that definitely is one of the factor, but it is not going to be the overriding factor because the cost of operation in Dubai vis-a-vis, let's say if you are coming from India, is going to be little higher. So you have to budget for it, you have to factor for it, and unless you cross a certain threshold of your revenue and the business, you cannot sustain. So this is one factor that people have to budget for, that are you able to sustain the overheads and the costs of operating in UAE for a period of time without considering the tax arbitrage.
If you could put out the number, a ballpark figure.
See, it varies from company to company, businesses to businesses, but to start a business and establish a company, you will actually look at, if you really want to have a presence with not just a virtual office kind of a setup and a paper company just to do your paper, movement of documents. If you actually want to do business, you are looking at company license fee anywhere from 25 to 50,000 dirhams, plus your office rentals, plus your operational costs. So obviously you have to factor in all these which people do not factor in. Second part is obviously, as UAE is no doubt having regulations of compliances and all that, but they are not too taxing in nature in terms of burdens of compliances and all that. But you have to also make sure that you follow the law. Because if non-followance and non-compliance can result into severe penalties and can result into fines, and which could be quite heavy. So these are two major factors I would say.
So this also gives me direction to Mr. Yogesh Mehta. He said patience. So UAE, destination right, everything right, but to build your business down here, you have to have that patience as a factor. So from some of your words, I picked out that tax treaties. Now I would like to direct this question to Neerav bhai, since you're an author of this great book that you've written, and you also mentioned that there are advantages on the tax, and UAE has one of the highest tax treaties with other countries in the world. But can you tell me what is tax treaty? What is the advantage? I mean, how does most of my audience is from India or Africa? How do they take advantage of it?
So, yeah, there are two aspects. One is the tax treaty is basically a double tax avoidance agreement between the two countries. And therefore, so far UAE never had taxes. Therefore, the advantage of assessing a tax treaty benefit was slightly limited, I would say. But now that we have taxes, the advantage now is that even if the income has got taxed in other country, you get a credit for that in UAE against your own tax liability that you pay. And UAE has 114 treaties, of which 104 are in operation, and they're still negotiating more, which is one of the largest treaty network. I won't say it is the highest, it's one of the largest, because if you say across all the countries in the world and it's bilateral, there are only 2,800 treaties. So of that, one country having so many is definitely one of the highest in the world. And therefore, doing business with any part of, say, Africa or India or Europe, UAE has treaties in place. And therefore, one is investment protection, it comes with, and other is, of course, the double tax avoidance incident.
Right, right. So let me change gears a little bit and see के structure बना दिया, खोखा बना दिया, अब इसको चलाना भी है. उसके लिए we have Mr. Vipin. So let me ask him a few questions. कि company बन गया, सब कुछ हो गया. Now a global company which you work for or companies you're working for now, how are they operating? So how are they operating? Like, why choose UAE? I mean, I'm seeing a lot of companies around the world today choosing UAE as the hub to launch and test products. It's become like a test bed. Why is that happening, and what is really driving, and how operationally this country is offering something advantageous other than the other countries?
See, best part of this country is the operational excellence. So operational excellence is coming directly from the government to all the companies and everything. Launching the product in Dubai or making trading hub in Dubai is the biggest advantage is 176 nationalities. The lot of startups in India, they do develop little bit market in India, but all the predominantly the users are Indians. But when they come to Middle East, a small market, but 106 nationalities. Lot of startups, lot of other small companies, they are looking into market expansions and they started setting up base here. The biggest reason is this. They can test different kind of nationalities, their feedbacks, their forms to expand into different markets. So that's the reason UAE is becoming one of the biggest hub as a starting point of a market expansion for different companies. They can come from India, set up here, make Dubai as UAE as a hub, and expand to entire MENA region, Africa, and from there onwards they can go to the other European, US, or Far East companies.
Right. One of the biggest examples I can think of is the Lulu group, right? We found that Carrefour, being such a huge giant, coming from the French culture, developed world, but could not fail to, I mean, they failed almost to imprint themselves on this country the way Lulu did. And Lulu from here has learned and today is expanding globally without any problems or failures because they understand cultures of 170 countries today. When they set up a store, they know exactly what each and every person needs. And that's what this country offers to you. And I'm running short of time and I'll just finish with a couple of questions now. One of the questions that keeps coming up is, fine, all this is done, but the golden visa is one of the questions which Vipulbhai, I think, gets asked a lot. And there are a lot of tweaks and changes to this law. And what are the advantages or how do you apply for a golden visa for all those who have come from outside for us, for them in that sense?
Okay, I think it was historical that few years back UAE came up with a concept of golden visa because till that time the visa was linked either to your investment in terms of having a company or being in employment. UAE came and that also was for 3 years which got reduced to 2 years. Now it is for a 10-year period golden visa provided you fulfill either of the criteria, either investment of 2 million dirham or more in property or some approved funds or investments, or you are into an employment with 30,000 dirham of salary on a monthly basis. So these are the golden visa which gives you a right to come and stay for any number of days in UAE for a period of 10 years without any limitation of having to come every 6 months, which is the case in your normal residence visa.
Right. So I've been told I've run out of time, and I hope, audience, I have been able to do justice and ask the questions that you wanted to ask. Other than that, this panel and a lot of Jito members are happy to assist all of you. And
Sorry, just two things, and I'll not take too much time.
Sure.
Just 2 points I would like to highlight here. In terms of the opportunity, one of the opportunity which is there, in UAE and India has signed comprehensive economic partnership agreement, which was also mentioned in yesterday's talk, wherein there are duty-free import facilities available for products which are manufactured in India into the UAE, as well as consequently from UAE into India. So this is one big opportunity for Indian businesses, and again, with very close contact which is there between India and UAE now, even rupee trade is a possibility, and RuPay cards are also going to be accepted here because that was launched during our Prime Minister's visit here. So this is a big opportunity, and UAE has in turn signed such comprehensive economic partnership agreements called SEPA with many other countries, which opens up your gate and door to those other countries for lower duty imports.
True.
That's an opportunity, and just a word of caution, anyone who is planning to do investment in UAE, please bear in mind that follow the process of the law in terms of declaration in India, going through the RBI channel, remitting the funds and investing into UAE, because there are many temptations where people say that you bring in money in any form and it will get adjusted and invested in properties. Please bear in mind there is very close connect with tax transparency, and the information before you realize it could be with the tax authorities of your home and resident countries. And that could really create issues. So please bear in mind, this is just a word of caution from my side.
That's
Thank you so much.
absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Thank you. Sepa, I will just conclude. Gold and textiles are actually active in UAE. Gold, though, you can meet Chandubai and the likes. There's Paresh Bhai. They'll tell you that's huge advantage. And textiles have become much more effective and efficient. You're almost able to match the Chinese goods prices, which are still levied 5% duty, but the Indian textiles are not levied 5% duty. So all those in the textile sector, please come, connect, and you will get great benefits over here. Thank you. You've been a lovely panel and a lovely audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.